Good morning and welcome back to the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and I'm excited to kick off season 2 with a theme that touches every single one of us: relationships. That's right, friends. Relationships are at the heart of our human experience. They shape who we are, how we grow, and how we show up in the world. Whether it's family, friends, romantic connections, or even the relationships we have with ourselves, each one carries lessons, challenges, and moments of pure joy. This season, we'll sit down with incredible guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and insights on building, nurturing, and even healing relationships. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into conversations that inspire connection and growth. Now that we've set the stage for today's conversation on relationships, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest. And I say they, but she brings a unique perspective and a wealth of experience to the table. And I know her insights will leave you feeling inspired and equipped to navigate your own relationships with more intention and understanding. So please join me in welcoming Keri Pettis to our Good Morning Minute podcast. Welcome, Keri. You're no stranger to our podcast. You've been on it before, but I am excited to have you again, especially as we get ready to talk about relationships. So yeah, just introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah. Thank you for having me back again, Angelina. I appreciate you just considering me and for the various topics. I enjoy listening to your Good Morning Minutes, and I think you are connected to a wealth of people. And so thank you for making me a part of that. My name is Keri Pettis. I am the Director of Compliance for Buckner Children and Family Services. Here recently, one of my accomplishments, I am now board certified. So I took the exam to become a corporate compliance and ethics professional. So I am also a CCEP. So that is exciting.
Yes, well, congratulations. What an
Thank you.
accomplishment. I know that you are a woman of many aspirations, and I know this is just one more step for you in your
Yes.
big picture goals. So excited. Yeah, so let's just jump into the topic here on relationships. Let me start by asking you this question. What do you feel is the fundamental or like the foundation for healthy relationships?
Oh my goodness. Over it took time to learn this. You gotta mess some things up, try to rebuild some things, and realize your part in it. But I think the biggest thing is the lack of forgiveness will really be kind of sinking sand for any relationship. You have to go into it with the foundation of forgiveness, understanding, and also knowing how to meet people where they are, because we're going to fluctuate in different seasons. So in one season, you may be excelling in your career and I may be stagnant. It doesn't mean that I can't learn how to meet you or you learn how to meet me where I am within our relationship. The reason I say forgiveness, though, is because as time has gone on, as I've gotten older, I've realized that people try to bring either the best version of themselves to the situation or just who they are in that season. It may not be the best version. Things may have happened in their life and they may not approach things the way you desire. Nobody knows how to treat Angelina better than Angelina. That is
Mhm.
just the honest truth. And so when you come into these situations or relationships, it's important to be forgiving, because if not, you're going to always be disappointed. You're going to always be let down. Now, I didn't say compromise. I didn't say, settle. I said be forgiving.
Mhm.
And that is really important because we're all going to come into a space where we're going to say something wrong, do something wrong, even though that may not be our intent. And those things can crumble a relationship.
Ooh, I like this. I like this idea of forgiveness or lack of forgiveness for most part, because it does. Um, it tends to jade the way you interact in your relationships.
Yes.
And you almost come in with these ideals or safeguards because you want to protect yourself. I mean, then
Mhm.
that's us as humans. We always want to protect ourselves from harm or hurt.
Yeah.
That's just genetically built into us. So
Mhm.
for us to become more authentic and genuine, we have to let those things down and be vulnerable and understand part of that vulnerability, part of growth is experiencing the hurt and understanding what that meant and shape, how does it make us grow? What do we learn
Mhm.
from it? And how do we forgive? So help, like, where does that start? Where does the
Yeah.
forgiveness start?
I think just listening to what you're sharing, and it's going to sound so cliche, but I
Mm,
think seeking to understand is going to
mm,
be so important in forgiveness. And what I mean by that is it is so easy to say, Angelina said hi to me this morning, but she went hi, you know, and I take it into a more personal perspective and I take it personally when really you just had a lot on your mind that morning. So I think seeking to understand forces you to be selfless. It forces you to remove you out the picture. So if I'm in any type of connection with anyone and I don't understand why they've done something, because we make decisions based off of our experiences. So if I've previously been in a really bad relationship, it could have been harmful, it could have been abusive, and there were certain behaviors and ways this person handled themselves, the moment I see it with someone else, I'm going to jump and be and respond to it as if it's the other person. So I think the moment you seek to understand, you're more willing to forgive because you're realizing that there is more of an awareness, a self-awareness. Like, this is a me thing. This is something that I'm realizing that I'm reacting to, and this is what they're saying they mean. Seeking to understand can be hard too, because sometimes you just want to say, no, I know what you meant. No, I know what you I know what was going on. I know what was in your head, but you truly have to stop and say, you know what? Can I better understand the reason why you said that? Can I better understand the reason why you reacted that way? Because you have to take into account that this individual came from a different walk of life, different upbringing, may have had their own traumas. And so again, that's where I think forgiveness happens. Once you seek to understand, then you find yourself like softening the hard part of your heart. You
mm,
start softening those areas that people have scarred or did things to you, the places that you respond from. Once you start softening those areas, then and you're not taking it personal, because a lot of times forgiveness have a lot to do with taking things personal.
mm.
Then you realize, you know what? They didn't even mean it like that. I know their heart because I've seek to understand them and I know what their heart posture is, and they didn't mean that. And that's where I think it really starts.
Ooh. And so you're saying I can't carry my ego in front of me? No, that is so true. And you're hitting like this topic of not taking things personal. I mean, that is very egocentric and, just me, right?
Yes,
All about
yes,
me. And
yes,
so what I'm hearing you say is when I'm seeking to understand, I need to remove the me out of this
yes.
and incorporate the you into it. Like,
Mhm.
let me learn about you, let me understand you. Okay, so then what would be the next step?
Yeah. So once you seek to understand that person and you guys start to build a genuine connection, I think moving forward, communication is going to be so important. I
Mm,
mean, if you want to build a strong relationship with anybody, this is in marriage, this is in friendships, you have to communicate. At the end of the day, if you've done something, I felt like you've wronged me, I've never said anything, but I've forgiven you, then when you do it again, because I haven't communicated to you that this thing bothered me, this thing was hard for me to work through, and this is my perspective, but thank you for sharing yours, then you're going to internalize it. Then there's a breakdown in communication. You find yourself no longer wanting to be connected to that person. So it's so important that once you're able to seek to understand, you have healthy, effective, continuous communication. Talk about whatever's on your mind, how you felt about something, even asking them if you see their demeanor, their body language shifting,
mhm,
ask, and be willing to just listen when you ask. A part of communication to me is also active listening
mm,
because in that moment, communication is happening. you're still downloading whatever the other person is sharing. But it's so important that when you are talking to someone, you actively listen to what they have to say. And I'm great for this. And I had to learn the hard way. I had to get my feelings hurt a few times. I ask, do you want me to give advice or do you just want me to listen? Because I'm okay with both.
Mm-hmm.
And if they just want me to listen, I do just that. Do you want me to affirm you? What do you want from me? And I think that's important. That helps you learn an individual as well. That's another selfless act to make it not about, well, I got advice about this. I've been through this. So I need to give you advice. And I think that's something I had to learn as being a parent.
And it's hard because I
Yeah.
know, and in my parenting journey, there was a moment between me and my daughter where the Lord really got a hold of me and said, you know what? At this age and at this situation that you're going
Mm-hmm.
through, you're no longer the parent that's I do what I say,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You are a parent as a mentor. You are supposed to be a
Yes.
support system. And
Yes.
when things happen, the safety net to catch and put back
Yes.
up on her feet, and it's I was like, okay, God, I guess. Like, but it makes sense because it also I had a conversation not too long ago with a company, and I was just kind of talking about my leadership, and the Lord brought that message back around because it is something
Mm-hmm.
that can happen with other relationships too. So,
Yeah.
in leadership, we always, you hold a title, and people assume like, oh, I have to do this because that person is my supervisor, that person is my director, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the case may be, and if I don't, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's not the heart that I speak from. I speak from one of support and guidance and mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, how, even though that I have verbally said that, even though through actions, example that, like, how do you get that to be absorbed on the
Yeah.
recipient side? Because like, how do you shift that? Because you may be there, but how do you help another person get there?
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the biggest things, especially as a leader, is that you said the key word, you guide them. And so
Hmm.
I think when you help guide them into a decision, it really helps them understand the things that come along with that decision. I was training some people out of Bridges Out of Poverty, and one of the tools that it encourages people to use is if you choose this, then you choose this. And it's an empowering tool to allow an individual to think about where they are now, a decision they're about to make, and where they will end. And so I think as a leader, sometimes a lot of what we do should be guiding the thought, not guiding the action. So let me help you think through how we're going to make this decision. Now, once you help them process it and you walk alongside them, then after a few times, you can say, this isn't a good idea because this can be the ultimate, result of this thing happening. And they understand that because they've walked through the process with you. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of times leaders, we have to invest that, and we have a lot of, especially depending generationally who you're leading, you have Gen Zers, you have people that are innovative, they're creative, they know everything,
Hmm.
in their minds, they know everything and they do know a lot and they do have a lot to offer. But as a leader, it's just understanding, again, as I mentioned before, meeting them where they are. How can I guide you in this thought process, in this decision making, in this problem solving? How can I help you use critical thinking tools to
Hmm.
understand this is why we have to end here? And as leaders, it's so easy to be like, this is why, especially as compliance. Like in my head, I'm like, it's a policy. That's why, like we gotta talk about, we're trying to do best practices, but I need their buy-in. And it
Hmm.
it means nothing if I don't have their buy-in. I can say policy is this, I could say what's right all day and it be true. But if they're not bought into what I am trying to deliver, then it's just worthless. So I think a part of it is you have to sit with them and say, let's walk through this together because I see that this is a reoccurring thing. You're having a hard time understanding it. I want to make sure that this isn't just a because I said so moment, but because it's a learning opportunity for you.
Hmm. And so I think in those conversations, because you mentioned communication being that next step
Yeah.
in the relationship process. So I think in that communication, it's being very intentional with the dialogue that you have, the words that you're
Yes.
utilizing,
Yes.
um, especially for someone that may not be operating from a perspective of forgiveness or seeking to understand someone that you're trying to help them, grow their perspective and
Yeah.
grow their communication. uh, so what are some tactics that I mean, that you've done in your practices as a leader and stuff to help others really develop that self-awareness and develop the emotional intelligence so that they too can continue to practice with others and help others?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is don't shy away from the hard conversations.
Mm,
Don't shy away from those difficult conversations you have to have. I think a lot of times, especially as leaders, we shy away from it because we want to approach it in this way. We really overthink it.
mm,
And I think in that moment, it is just the most humbling experience because you may do a great job and you may not, and you learn a lot about yourself and about the other person. But in order to build emotional intelligence, you have to have some experiences where you didn't have it. And you
mm,
realize I should have done better. And I think as leaders, we're scared to fail. We're scared to mess up. We're scared to, expose a part of ourselves that is flawed, that may look like it's a requirement for a leader. And so I think in those moments, it's so important not to shy away from those uncomfortable, hard conversations. I remember telling my nephew once, he was dealing with some stuff in college, and I told him, I said, hey, you have a decision. You could do one or two things. You can, because there was some stuff happening that he didn't care for. And I said, well, you can not say anything and have multiple uncomfortable situations, or you can say something and have one uncomfortable situation, which is just having the conversation and then it's over. So
mhm,
I think as leaders, in order to build the emotional intelligence and level of awareness, we can't shy away from it. We can't avoid it. It's easy for us to do as leaders because we have so many things in our lives that are happening at work, so we can navigate something and create work for us to do and kind of drown out the noise. But don't shy away from it. And when you feel that it needs to be talked about, talk about it. I had one individual. Speaking of relationships, I learned so much from her.
mhm,
I was the West Dallas director at the time, and um, I learned so much from her. She challenged me in a lot of ways, and it was a learning opportunity for me because I had never led an individual like her. Amazing worker,
mhm,
amazing. Families loved her, and I think we just understood leadership in two different ways. And she expected one thing from leadership. I expected to provide a different standard of leadership. And it took a lot of hard conversations to
mhm,
ultimately find out that this particular person just had a really bad experience with the previous leader before coming into the organization.
mhm,
And that experience altered and kind of is the filter that they use, the lens that they use to look through all the actions of any leader after that. And that I had mentioned some of that earlier. So
mhm,
I was coming up against stuff that I didn't even know anything about, you know, and it took for us to come to an understanding, for her to see. I had to put my human hat on. Being a leader sometimes can dehumanize you because you're almost like a robot at times.
yeah.
And I had to say to her, what is going on? I genuinely want to know what's going on. I tell this to, and I'm not trying to jump around. Let me finish this thought first. And I told her, I said, I genuinely want to know what's going on with you. And she shared some things. And in that moment, I understood and the seeking to understand.
Mhm,
And when that person left, they said to me, I hope that one day I'm as good of a leader as you are.
mm,
That's what their words were to me. And that has stuck with me forever. And when I am working compliance, I tell people it is hard to go tell somebody what they did wrong when you're never telling them what they do right, or you're
mm,
never having a genuine conversation with them. When you ask them how they're doing, mean it. Hey, how are you? How's your day going? You know, you have to really sit and mean those things. Remember little details. Hey, I got to leave. I got to take my child to the doctor because he or she is sick. Next week, hey, how's your daughter doing? Your son doing? Are they okay? You know, it doesn't, you don't have to
Mhm.
make it a prolonged thing, but people care. People know you care when people care when they know you care. And I think another saying something like, how does it go? Um, People, I don't know how the saying go, but they know when you care. Like they can tell by your actions that it's not phony, it's
Mhm.
authentic and it's genuine. And so, how would it have been for me not to have taken those moments with someone to say, I want to learn more about you as a person so that I can help you professionally because the two go together.
Mhm.
And if I would have just came to them like, look, this is I need to reprimand you. I need to redirect you. You're not doing
Mhm.
right. We're human. We're people at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you're a leader, you have a job to do, but we're people. You know, we live in whole lives outside of here.
Mhm.
You might ask me how I'm doing depending on the day, and I might break down crying, you know. And it could be tears of God is just so good to me, or it could be tears
Yeah.
that, I just had to bury a loved one. And so that's why it's so important. You have to be authentic and realize you're leading humans.
It's true. It is true. And I like that you said put your human hat on
Mm-hmm.
because we do. We have to show, as in those work relationships, you also have to show some vulnerability too.
Yeah.
And then just recapping the fact that she was judging you already before you even started working, your working relationship. And so
Yeah.
it just emphasizes your first statement on forgiveness. It's important to
Yes.
forgive because as you step into new relationships, you can't carry that baggage on there, but you have to be aware that what triggers you so that you can verbalize it and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I had a really rough experience in my past.
Yeah.
And every time I heard, I need to pull you in for a conversation, it would send me off the rails because I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember what those conversations were like in a previous relationship. So is that what
Mm-hmm.
is that what I'm going to expect in this one? So I
Yes.
I love that that story because if she had just come to you and said, okay, look, this is my previous experience with my leader. This is kind of where I'm pulling my expectations for you.
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
these are these correct assumptions? Because I think in a lot of our relationships, because we don't have the hard conversations, we operate out of assumption based
Yes.
based on what we believe
Yes.
and not facts. Because
Yes.
we're not asking, we're not asking questions.
Yes. Yes. That's it. Stick to the facts. I love that. I'm such a stick to the facts person. Just remove all emotion. You get to a solution quicker. You get a
Mhm.
better understanding faster. And the fact is, that person came in and they really had a horrible experience. And I felt bad that that was their experience. And as leaders, we have to care. We can't be like, well, that's not going to be me. That's not how I am. We have to care that that was their experience because that is molding their professional experience. And
Mhm.
it's so important. Relationships in the professional world, period, is extremely important. It's your brand. Literally,
Mhm.
your relationships with others is a reflection of your brand.
Mhm. And I learned that working at Buckner too. I remember that. But it's very true. And I carry that perspective with me in every job role that I have is it is a reflection of me. So what do I want that to be out there in the
Yes.
world? You know,
Yes.
especially when you hear the feedback and you hear, the things and, again, seeking to understand and operating with the heart of compassion
Mm-hmm.
and forgiving, those are hard things to do. It's easier said than done, but it helps a lot, especially when you're trying to teach others how to be
Yes.
in that mindset.
Yeah.
Um, it is hard. It's growing pains, is what I call them, growing pains. But if someone is committed and dedicated into to sticking it out, like the relationship that you showed with your person, that you had the opportunity to lead, if someone is willing to work with you, um, it just pays off in the
Oh
long run,
yeah.
you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And it changes that, like you have forever changed and imprinted on that person, and anything that she steps into moving forward. So
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so like as we start kind of wrapping up our conversation,
Hmm.
what would you say to Keri, the young leader, the leader that's just
Yeah.
stepping into, what kind of advice would you give her as she's stepping into this new journey of leadership?
Girl, shut up and listen sometimes. You talk too much. um, wisdom is something that you learn from mistakes.
Mm,
That's just the bottom line. You people that are wise is because they've been that, the saying, been there, done that, got the shirt.
mhm,
And we are so scared to make them. We're so scared. We don't want to, but there's such pivotal moments for our life. And so the younger Keri, I would tell her, don't shy away from pushing the limit and making mistakes. I think who I am today possibly could have arrived a lot sooner had I done that. Had I been a little bit more intentional with my professional relationships. I think at the time it was me wanting to protect who I was and protect what I had to offer. And I felt like it was, I can't let anybody say anything about me. And I got to, show that I just come to work and it's work only, then I go home. And I'm still very much so work is work and my personal life is separate. But I have a very healthy kind of this thin line that connects the two, where there's a good understanding of why the two are so important. I would tell the younger Keri, brand consistency is important. The younger Keri used to get upset when people said negative things about her or things that I felt like weren't true. And this might have been the Keri not too long ago, too. I felt I did not like you to talk about me. Don't say nothing
yeah.
about me that wasn't true. It just bothers me. I don't like it. And what I'm learning is I'm still learning this to this day, actually,
Mhm,
is brain consistency. And what I mean by that is if anybody came to Angelina and said, Jesus was a sinner, he was not who you think he was,
mhm,
you would tell them that is not true because he was consistently the same person at all times. And
mhm,
I think, and we can vouch to that. And if anybody comes to you and say anything different, you know it's not true. Instead of walking around trying to prove that I am someone that is, kind, gentle, loving, hardworking, all those things, instead of trying to prove that to so many people and exhausting myself because I'm constantly in my head, like, who's watching me? I just need to consistently be who I am so that people experience the same person as much as possible. So when they do go into different spaces, they can speak to the character that they've experienced. And that's my brand consistency. That's what carries me through. When I think about, and I'll get spiritual for 5 seconds, when I think about God is putting your name in different rooms, God has your name on their mind. It is not just Angelina Mojica, it's not just Keri Pettis. It is who you are as a person, your
mhm,
character, your brand consistency. So I would tell every young person, not just the young Keri, because our young people struggle with understanding the value of relationships. Every young person, brand consistency.
mhm,
Who you are is your brand, and you have to be consistent with that person. People need to be able to speak to a healthy brand, not a
mhm.
brand that's tarnished, that this person is this way at all times. So when opportunities come and your name is mixed into it, there's no doubt in anybody's mind in the room because they've all experienced the same person. Your
Mm.
brand consistency. So that's it. That's all.
Yes, yes. And also forgive yourself too for those things that you
Yes.
don't get right. Like, I mean, we're
Yes.
just gonna close it with forgiveness because I think that is such an important aspect in
Yeah.
relationships. forgiving yourself with your relationship with self, but also, being able
Yes.
to carry that forward because it is going to, I mean, it's an inner reflection outward for sure. Well,
Yes.
Keri, I just want to thank you again. I again have learned so much in our short time just talking. I love our conversations. Um,
Awesome.
but okay, so you had this new accomplishment. Do you have anything else that's out there that you'd like to kind of promote or talk about?
I am figuring it out day by day, Angelina. I am being obedient to God, but right now I don't have anything out there. I've considered getting a lot more active on social media, but it's consuming. So whenever I do, I'll make sure you're the first. Good Morning Minute will be the first ones to know.
All right. Well, I look forward to it because you are wise beyond your years for sure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so thank you. So, okay, guys. Well, you know what this means? This means it's a wrap. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.